Hello everyone, I just wanted to go over project that I've done, and it is a toxicity bot for Discord. So basically you can invite this bot to come to your server, and whenever someone says something that is toxic or obscene, within a channel, the bot will automatically flag as a reaction or filter out those messages as a spoiler. As you can see here, the reactions are the flags. So whenever the classifying model, I guess, predicts that a text is potentially toxic or obscene, it will send a reaction to that message or that piece of text. Now, if it's really extreme, it covers it completely, so that at first glance you don't see this really obscene message. So that's the content management system that I have in place. But you could easily extend it so the bot can message the administrators of the Discord server and compile a list of potential troublemakers based on the statistics from what's yielded by this machine learning algorithm. So let's take a look at the code. Before that, let's actually go over the libraries that I'm using. I know I'm using the terms machine learning algorithm and model classifying. They're very like fancy terms, but in all honesty, in order to use them is as simple as invoking a single function. That's how easy it is to interface with that kind of technology. And that's amazing because you could do really crazy stuff with classifying models and machine learning algorithms. So I'm using TensorFlow, which provides to me a set of pre-trained models, and they have certain abilities. So this one can classify images, detect objects, and this is the one I'm using, text toxicity detection. Now, in order to use it, it's quite simple. I just have to run this command, which will take care of finding where to download this library or this piece of code and just immediately append it to my project. And then in order to use the model itself, all I have to do is import two libraries and set a threshold. Threshold essentially is a classifying model based on the data will make predictions that vary from 0 to 1. And now you have to set a value between 0 to 1, which will determine whether or not it is toxic. So you're collapsing what essentially is a spectrum into a Boolean value. It's either explicit or not explicit. And so this is essentially what that threshold does. Allows you to have a certain answer based on the prediction it makes. And so you pretty much configure this model to use this threshold, and then once it's finished loading and building itself up, you can then invoke this function. And this function will take the model that is the result of what was built and then use that model to make predictions on a sentence. So you pass a sentence as an argument to a member function of the model. And then from there, predictions is the result. And predictions gives you, numerical predictions. 0.3. And so based on the threshold that I've set, if it's higher than 0.9, then it is true that this text is an insult. So you're not like, oh, it's a little bit of an insult, or it's not really that an insult. It's black and white. It's an insult or it's not. This is what this threshold allows you to do. Now the other library that I'm using is discord.js. It just allows one to build a Discord bot using JavaScript. Simple as that. It has its own vast library of things. You could do a lot with Discord.js. You could parse text. You could do whatever an admin does. You could enter a voice channel, play things in a voice channel, hear things in a voice channel. Yeah, it allows you to do a lot. It gives you a lot of freedom and what you can do with Discord itself. Unfortunately, on first glance, when you look at Discord.js, the introduction to it is quite verbose. If you look at this documentation, there's a lot of terms like client and intent flags that guild, and interaction crate. All of these things, when you don't know it, Discord.js, you don't know them at all. And so, in order to learn just the introduction, you have to search up many terms. I mean, that's usually a given when you're reading documentation, but some documentations or some codes are written well enough that for some reason at first glance you could just kind of understand it. Sometimes they use, semantics to do that, which is really cool. But anyway, so it is spaghetti code. I am not gonna lie, it is. I'm kind of busy. I have schoolwork to attend to, but this is the best I could do in a short amount of time. So very sorry if it looks messy. Anyways, so I have like configuration information. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's essentially what configures my project. So my project definitely needs these terms to be set, prior to running or prior to coding. And so this is like, in a sense, configuration. Essentially what I use for this, the bot, in order to make the bot, I need these contextual informations that I've set here in config.json. So I import token reaction severe, which are these objects, because these are information that I absolutely need. And then of course I have to import the other things that I need in this project, which is the Discord.js library and the TensorFlow library. And like what I've said earlier, we also need to set a threshold for our toxicity model. And that's what we do exactly here. So all of my code is wrapped around an async function, which allows me to use the await term. And now I can halt the program or prevent it from continuing until a certain function or a certain action is resolved. So it allows me to resolve this first before running through any other code afterwards. So once this toxicity model is finished loading, I can then use it. So I'll keep it there. But I also need to make my Discord bot, so I make my Discord bot. And a Discord bot, if you think about it logically, is an object. So it is a client object in code. And in it contains intents, which are basically what it can do and what it's intended to do. So it can type messages and react to them, and also access certain things and sections of the guild. So then I use this specific member function, which represents an event. So this member function will invoke this other function that I pass as its second parameter. Right, we call this a callback function. And what it would do when the Discord bot is ready is it will say it's ready. And here's another event. When someone creates a message, and when that happens, we execute this really, really long and verbose async function. And then in this async function, we take the message of that newly formed text that shows up in Discord, and then we check if its author is a bot. Well, we don't really want to look at our own messages, or else we might get stuck in a loop where we look at our own messages and react to them. And so we have to make sure that the messages aren't ours. And if it is, then don't do anything. Simple as that. And then we build the model. And now with the newly built model, We can then classify the contents of the message, which is pretty much the message itself. And then what this whole function will do is make a set of predictions. And here I create a set reaction variable, which is a string. And in this string, I will add a set of reactions. What it looks like is this. I'll be adding sets of reaction every time a prediction is true. I store the original message, so message.content. I just store it to this variable, is called original message. And then based on the set of predictions, for each prediction, which has a label, which basically means its name. So this is the prediction name. If we look at the toxicity model, or the documentation for it, these are the labels. And then we also have an array of predictions. And in this results array, we find the results of match. So whether or not something is an insult. If it is, then the match will be true. If it isn't, it will be false. So we just get that prediction, and if it is true that something is an insult or obscene, what I actually also do is check if it's severe, right? So if a prediction's match value, which is this, is true, then we check its label and property of a text is what we consider one of the severe ones. And if it is, we then find this severe property and then check what its reaction emoji is. So label reactions. So if it's an identity attack, if we check reactions for the same property, we find its emoji, which is a stop sign. And then, of course, for every property, it will be added to the set of reactions if it is severe, which is the summary of this line. And then, once it's done so, it's also going to react to the message with that emoji. And this is also leftover code, which I have to delete. Now, if there is actually something in a set of reaction, if it's not an empty string, then it must have one of the properties we consider to be toxic or unwanted. And if it has any of those properties, the message is deleted. And we immediately send a message back, which will contain a set of reactions, the name of the user that sent that text, followed by the original message covered as a spoiler. And then we have a function down here, which doesn't mean it's the one that's last to run, it's just down there. What it does is just logs in the bot with the credential, which is what we call the token. This credential will allow you to access the bot. So it's very, very important that no one knows your token. Very important. And in the very, very bottom is the invocation to call the whole shebang. Because I needed to wrap it around an async function, I need to call that function somewhere outside of the scope of the function. And so let's see it run real time. So I'm just going to go to its directory, and then execute the JavaScript file. Now a bunch of things are going to start to load. That's because the model is being built or calculated by my GPU. I've installed a special library so that I can utilize my GPU so that the predictions are made faster. And then in the bottom you see the console log that I've defined at line 20. And that indicates that the bot on Discord is ready. So let's go into Discord. I could do something like hello. And of course, it shouldn't do anything because hello is not toxic at all. But if I say something like fuck you, then the Discord bot and the content management system will immediately delete my message and then flag me if it's an insult. So in this case, it could be an insult because it looks like someone insulting, and then it encapsulates my original message under a spoiler, and it allows me to show it as a reader. I can show it to myself if needs be. It allows me to filter out chat rooms such that really obscene language is less visible. So yeah, that's a Discord bot in a nutshell. I hope it wasn't too incredibly verbose. I'm trying to train myself to make YouTube videos. I want to start making content where I do like mini projects and I just literally just document what I do and then just show it to people if they're interested in doing the same thing and how I did it. It would be an explanation of my code. It's a lot better than reading documentation sometime. So yeah, this is my way of documenting my piece of work. Thanks for watching.